Hi, I'm Kat, marketer turned brand storyteller.
And I'm Candace, educator turned entrepreneur.
And you're listening to
Not Nice, Clever.
As CEOs and leaders, it's your job to always have the answers, but sometimes you need a little help. Leverage, if you will. We get it. This is the place for you.
So wherever you're listening, 5:30 a.m. club at the gym, on your way to your next meeting, or putting out today's fire, let's get into it. In today's episode of Not Nice Clever, we have the pleasure of introducing you to, or maybe continuing the conversation with, Arjun Dhingra. He is a great friend of Not Nice Clever. He has been so supportive of everything that we've done, and we had the privilege of speaking at his event recently called LFG Energy. He also is the founder of LFG Society, which is an incredible community of like-minded entrepreneurs, mortgage lenders, real estate agents who are leveling up in their business. In addition to that, he is a two-time world champion in taekwondo. He's also the former head coach of Team USA. I mean, he is just a complete badass, and he has the heart of gold. He really is all about serving his community, and we're so excited to have this conversation with him. Thanks for joining us on Not Nice Clever. Listen in.
Thank you so much for making time to be here today, Arjun. We know you are a very, very busy man with two very young girls that keep you super, super on your toes, but we're excited to welcome you here. It feels like just yesterday we were in San Francisco at your LFG Energy event where you were so gracious to let Candace and I on stage and do some brain damage and do a workshop and bring a little bit of the Not Nice Clever energy. So we're really excited to have you here today.
No, I'm equally thrilled. You guys are two of my favorite humans. And it's been a really cool and evolving friendship over these last few years that I'm grateful for. So I'm a big, humongous, cannot overstate it enough fan of everything you both do. So this is like a big thrill for me to be on your podcast because I remember when you started this, like a little over a year or 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago.
Something. It's a year and a half. It feels like 2 years.
Yeah, I remember when
Right?
you started it and you made your big announcement, like how cool. And what, I mean, first of all, the name, but just so cool what you guys are doing. So I'm very appreciative of this, but congratulations to you guys back in reverse here for everything you've done.
Thank you.
We love being in community with people who are making shit happen, which is why we love you so much, Arjun. And I was telling someone about you recently, and I was like, yeah, like we met because of business, but at this point it's not business. Like, he's my friend. He's real smart because basically I'll do anything he asks me now because no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Because we have that true relationship and connection. That's what I really love about LFG Energy and everything that you put on. It is about community, and we connect in that way. So I'm super excited to have you on and talk more about that today.
Yeah. Me too.
And, we had so many incredible people there speaking of community at your event. And one thing that really stood out to me that was such a treat to be able to be in the audience and in attendance when you were giving your speech. And, Arjun, you have a really interesting background. I think our clever crew is going to be very surprised to learn, all of the different things that you've done. But there was one moment in your speech that you brought up that just floored me. And it was this phrase of being equal to the moment.
Yeah.
And I looked at Candace and I was like, so please, like, share more about like where that came from. I think, our clever crew might be surprised, but truly where the genesis of that mantra come from? Because it hit me in my soul.
I don't have an exact pinpointed place or conversation or moment. It was actually a culmination of moments where that happened.
Okay.
And it was around 2008 when the market crashed. And then I had just prior to that competed in my first world championships in taekwondo. And the market was already starting to unwind at that point. So training and immersing myself into that was like a really convenient distraction and healthy because everything in mortgage was already starting to get really depressing. And then boom, like that year after I'd competed, everything really fell out. But there was all these like really big moments happening around me. And I took certain things that coaches, mindset coaches, my trainers had all said, because it can get very, very overwhelming out there, especially when, things that are out of our control start to like build up. I think of like this huge wave. Like we watch those cool videos about surfers. I don't know how they do it, where they literally will ride 100 or 200 foot wave.
Wild.
It just doesn't even look real. But that's like the magnitude, to put it in some kind of perspective, of what people face when a market crashes or they're going through a really tough time in their life, or, just worlds are colliding, whatever it might be. So then I just thought, like, when moments are big, like, how are we supposed to be? How do we not get engulfed by this wave and get spit out the other side? And why do people choke? Why do people not seize the opportunity when they're so good at their craft, but yet when they, when the lights shine brightest, they tend to like just cower. And I
Mhm.
think that, to not to oversimplify, but to, bring it back to the phrase that you brought up, which I love that stuck with you because it's my favorite too, is yeah, you be equal to the moment. If a moment is big, you be big. Because if you come in
Mhm.
too big or much bigger than the moment, you won't respect it. And if you don't
Mm.
respect it, you won't get the intended lesson that the experience or that the universe is trying to provide you with that moment, right? Whether it's going to be painful or euphoric, whatever it is, there's a lesson behind it. So if you come in too big, you're not going to respect it. And if you come in too small, then back to the wave analogy, like you're just going to get chewed up and spit out the other side and either become very frustrated, scared, or completely put off by it and never want to experience anything like that again. So there's humility that's involved with it, right?
Mhm.
Self-awareness. But if a moment is big, you be big. You meet it right at its level and know that whatever it is that's there and whatever is required of you, that you belong, you're equipped for it, even if you don't believe, or even if you may not actually fully be there, you have to have that
Mhm.
belief in yourself. So that's what I mean by being equal to a moment. And then, those moments don't ever stop, right? Like they're going to keep coming at us, especially into the year that we're heading into now. And things are going to get more challenging potentially. And life doesn't stop, right? It's going to keep hitting us. So just be equal to those big moments and you'll be able to handle anything.
Yeah.
Mm. I love it.
As a lender, Arjun, you say that, next year is likely to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key ingredients that the lenders and potentially even real estate agents have that are going to still do great in 2024? What are, because we know that there are those people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What are the innate traits that those people have, or what are they building right now so that they can still do great next year?
Well, I think first you recognize that the space we're in, right, which I can comment on uniquely because I work in lending and in housing. So for real estate and lending, to your question, housing is never going to go out of style. People still need, people will always
It's
need
always
places
the
to
new
live.
black.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
will always
Yes.
need places to live. Life is going to
Mhm.
happen. People are going to date. They're going to mate. They're going to have children. They're going to expand. They're going to get divorced. They're going to
Move in their in-laws,
move.
like take care of
Yeah,
their elders.
they're
Yeah.
going. And you know
Mhm.
what? Look, and here's another situation, right? Like there's like polyamorous couples are on the huge rise. Like it's a trend, right? So you're moving in huge groups of families together. Like things are
Oh my.
things. Life is just never going to stop. I only
Is
bring
that a San Francisco thing or that's
that
everywhere?
was
Yeah, I
that
was
was
gonna say.
actually LA. I just did a
Oh,
deal for a client in LA for a
Oh my
polyamorous
goodness.
couple. It was three of them, and I
wow.
don't know. They
Already.
might be onto something because these are three of the happiest people I've ever met. But that's a whole nother topic. We can discuss that on
Okay,
the next.
whole other topic. Yeah, we'll have a whole episode on
Future
that.
episode. Yeah,
Totally
Yeah.
exactly.
should bring them on because they've got some secret. But look, if you recognize that what we do is not
Mhm.
going out of style, then you can calm down. It's kind of coming back to that whole being equal to the moment because it's very easy to get swept up in the negative media and the tidal wave of there's high rates and low inventory and housing is so tough and no one made a lot of money this year and it was really
Mhm.
challenging. But if you just stop and take a breath, like, look, I'm not in this unique place where it's so niche what it is that I do or what it is that I'm selling or the service I provide. Like housing's not going out of style. People always need shelter. If I can take a deep breath there and then start to hone in on my craft and figuring out what it is that I really bring to the market, because people that are not quite clear on it, and this is why you both are so good at what you do, but you also preach to people. Like as Kat says, you got to figure out who the F you are. Am I allowed to curse here,
Mhm.
by the way?
You
Oh
are.
Oh,
yeah,
This
please.
is our
fantastic.
podcast.
And fucking
Drop them all.
tastic. There we go. Okay. So you got to first know who the fuck you are, right? Before you can do anything and like
Yes.
being really clear on that. So I think heading into this market, there needs to be a over heightened sense of self-awareness. You got to really check in and do
Mhm.
the work. Like, who am I? What do I bring to the table? How valuable am I really? And
Yep.
then if you take that and match it with all the challenges and problems out there, you're just connecting dots at that point. So for all of us in lending and real estate, I think that's going to be the key thing. If you were just in this transactional mode, then this market's going to be very tough because you're not going to
Mhm.
really have this identifiable place of where you're really noticed, where people can find you, and where people who are in need of your services are going to connect those dots. If you're just someone who just checks boxes or you're an order taker, I think your days are numbered. And Ryan's
Mhm.
talked about that a lot, right? Like within these circles that we all talk about, like that's what's going to make this a challenging year. So those that are clear on who they are, what they bring to the table, they're good at their craft, they're constantly trying to improve, they will have a place. Their hand will always be in the air and they will always be noticed by the audience and by the consumer groups. And for me personally, like that's what I really commit to doing. It's always about just getting better, getting sharper, staying well connected, maintaining amazing relationships, and
Mhm.
being part of unique circles. And, just relax and don't overthink it, right? Like it's all going to be okay. Again, it's housing, it's not going out of style.
Oh, I love that. And yes, thank you for dropping the first F bomb. Usually Candace or I loves to take that privilege, but we are happy to share it with you here today.
All right. Me
Yeah.
too. I'm excited.
I think that if you're listening right now and you're not in mortgage and you're not in real estate, the message is still the same. If
Mhm.
you don't have your unique perspective defined and you don't have a voice established, then it can get easy to believe that you don't have any value to add to the conversation. And so you really do need to look within and say, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to be recognized? What are my unique perspectives? How can I develop them? And in the beginning, it might feel weird. You might be trying on a unique perspective. You're like, is this me? Is that me? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like trying on clothes. Like you're gonna figure out what your style is, but you have to show up
Yeah.
and you have to have the conversation. You have to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And so no matter what industry you're in, if you are looking to build a brand, you need to not be the same as everyone else. You need to figure out who you are.
Yeah. And I think there's a human element to this too that's missing or
Mhm.
has been missing, right? Like we don't get sincerity when we approach things from a place of insincerity. Like everyone has been
Mhm.
so transactional over the last like 4 or 5 years. And this is why I appreciate what you both do. You're both like not just humans that are like putting that offer services and consult and help people, but you genuinely care about having an impact and leaving every client or every interaction better than when you found it. And I think if
Mhm.
everybody recognizes or starts to approach their business and their work and their craft that way of like, I want to solve problems. I want to help people. And some people are like, that's just cheesy. It's really not. Like your success is directly proportionate to the amount of people you help or the problems you solve. If you're in the problem
Mhm.
solving business, first of all, it takes pressure off you to make money or close
Right.
deals or be transactional. Just serve others.
Right.
Be in the service. Like if you're not in full service of others, like your career is going to be very short, right? Because you'll just
Mhm.
have a window where maybe you'll make money and then eventually there's no need for that. And then you just get washed out. So everyone, especially in the market that we're heading to, needs to think about that and being ultra sincere and, and people forward, people centric,
Mhm.
consumer centric. And I think it'll make our businesses and our purposes a lot more clear. And not to mention, it makes the work so much more fulfilling. When you're actually helping people and
Yes.
you're not focused on the deal or the money and you don't reek of commission breath, right? Which so many people in our industry can. They really can.
Mhm.
And you guys see it too. Like you deal with
Oh
contracts and
gosh.
you're consultants, right? Like sometimes you see other people
Mhm.
that you compete with, you see it also. Like that person's just clearly out for the contract. Like and
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
and they will still get work, right? Because there's a place for them in this market and some
They
people like
will,
that. Yeah.
but how much will
It's
they
not
enjoy it?
sustainable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think that when you come from a place of service and your clients know that, like, I don't have to ask people to refer me. They're gladly going to refer me,
Yeah.
right? I don't have to
Mhm.
have that conversation because they're like, well, I worked with Candace. She was amazing. You should definitely contact her.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. And I think that that grows, that compounds over time when people are just talking about you over and over again, saying how much you helped them, whether that person paid you or not.
Yeah.
If you came from a place of service, they will tell people to pay you in the future.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
the truth. It doesn't end.
One of my favorite questions to ask clients in sessions, like whether I'm like beginning to work with them or they've been stuck or they've stalled out in their work or whatever it is, I always tell them like remove money from the equation. If money were no object, what would you actually be doing with your days and with your time? And if it is not matching your current calendar, then we got a bigger problem than like where your next paycheck is going to come from.
Hmm.
And like really level setting with that. And the ones that are like, no, yes, Kat, like I really do enjoy, I love real estate. I love what it can do. Or I love lending. I love being able to, put families in homes and then they can make memories and it's incredible. It's like, okay, well, what else then do we need to tweak? I'm like, if the vision is there, what's the path that we can embark upon to get you there? Because you're not enjoying the path that you're on right now. We just got to figure out a different way for you to achieve what you want. And it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I know there's probably people listening that are like, okay, Kat, well, your bills are paid or you've got property or this or that. It's like, I have a family to feed or a family to support. And I know it can be hard, but I'm just wondering, like, Arjun, was there ever a point in your journey, like maybe it was 2008 or maybe it was after or before, where like being able to be equal to the moment was really, really hard for you? Like, was there a moment that was just, or even a collection of moments where you kind of faltered, and like what was it that got you through those times?
I mean, some of it is just, like that expression, when you're going through hell, you just keep going, right? Like they say,
Yeah.
just keep going. And I'm not equating that to hell, because there's people that go through really, really tough, like unimaginable sets of circumstances or storms, and they come out
Mhm.
the other side, and it's inspiring to see, but it also reminds you of just like what is possible. If I look back to 2008, I'd say like that was a terribly scary time, because
Mhm.
we went from like everyone, like it was Wolf of Wall Street days. Like it was just crazy, the mortgage and real estate
Mhm.
space. We went from making such fuck off money. I call it that. Like everything you made was like fuck off money, like literally.
Yeah.
And to the point where like it just like the music actually stopped. It's like the record in a club, like literally just stopped,
Mhm.
and there was nothing. Like we had no money to make. I remember Neil and I just sitting there like kind of staring at each other, wondering like, what are we gonna do? We have to wait for this regulatory environment to kind of pan out, the new compensation laws, because the mortgage industry got completely turned upside down. Like first and
Mhm.
foremost, they were public enemy number one in this whole thing. So
Yeah.
like it was, I mean, there was dark, tough moments. But I remember reading this from the editor of a magazine, when it was a new magazine. It was an offshoot of Men's Health, and I can't even remember the name of the magazine, but I have the thing ripped out, that like note from the editor, which is like always the first page. The magazine went
Yeah.
out of existence like after a year, so I think I was the only one who read it clearly.
Oh,
Also, I
no.
can't even remember the name. But he said I wrote something to my kids, and I was during the time that I was going through hell, like putting this whole thing together and trying to get this magazine off the ground, which is that, I hope you never have to do what I did, which was dancing around the rim of a volcano. Like, and that really stuck with me, because that's what it was. It was literally
Mm.
a dance around the rim of a volcano. Like, don't fall in, just keep going, keep dancing around it. And I was thankful and really grateful that I didn't have mouths to feed. Like, I didn't have a wife, and I didn't have my two daughters, which were always in the
Mhm.
universe, like waiting for me to connect with them, right? Which happened years and years later.
Oh,
But
I
I
love
like to
that.
think like, okay, I can rough it. If I got to eat some fast food for a good few weeks, which is kind of like a secret indulgence of mine anyway, so I wouldn't call that
Oh,
suffering.
mine too.
I wouldn't call
You
it
didn't
suffering at
know.
all, but
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't
Mhm.
healthy. My face was a lot rounder at the time. And then, I was like, I mean, I went through like some stuff too. Like people were like, "Wow, how hard could it have been?" I was living in a place that was rented, and we were using it as an office lease, as a live
Mhm.
workspace. And then I owned a property that I couldn't even pay the HOA dues on, because I was so far behind. It was a rental, and it was a furnished
Oof.
rental. I was selling furniture within the furnished rental to pay the HOA dues for a series of months. And I would go over that. I
Mm.
put it on Craigslist. Like, luckily, there was a high demand for Craigslist furniture, because nobody could afford brand new furniture. So it was a very fluid market. But I was doing that kind of stuff. And I remember, because it was walking distance to the apartment that I was working and living out of. So I'd walk there to meet someone to sell off another thing, and then come back. And then
Mhm.
I still needed to leave it somewhat furnished, because it was a furnished rental. So it's not like I was like, there's some glasses and a sofa, the bed and everything's fine, but like, feel free to knock yourself out and enjoy yourself here in this furnished rental.
Yeah.
But like, it was like, you question yourself, you get really, it's really easy to get down, and like, you're not always up all the time. And then you just have to,
Mhm.
remind yourself and keep things in perspective. Like, I got my health. And I know, again, that's easier said than done. Tomorrow's a new day. Again, easier said than done. I'll get through this. Easier said than done. But you just put one foot in front of the other. There really isn't a secret magic to it or whatever. I
Yeah.
will say that community, though, does matter. Like the people that you're choosing to
Mm.
hang out with, because it was a pretty depressing time. And if you were around other people who were equally depressed, that could have like a
It just
compounding effect
like,
on your psyche. So
yep.
being around some people that like were kind of moving and shaking and in a much better financial situation than I was kind of like good. And it was inspiring, because it reminded me, there's still hope, and there's still light at the end of all these tunnels, right? Like, they're doing okay. Like, I could get there too. And there's
Mhm.
synergy there, and there's a transfer of energy. So I would just tell people, when you're going through those moments, because they're never going to end. It's just, they're not a matter of if they happen, they're a matter of when, for all of us. It's at varying
Mhm.
degrees. But if you maintain really good community And this kind of really segues into like LFG and why the event happened and a big premise of it. Like, it's
Yeah.
all about the company you keep, the rooms you hang out in, right? The conversations you have, the hands you shake, the person you listen to, the podcast you listen to. So make sure you always stay listening to this one. Have to plug it. Have to plug it. But
Thank
at any
you.
rate, that's
Appreciate
basically what it
you.
was. That's what it was.
So we talk a lot on Not Nice Clever about being in the right rooms, putting yourself in the situation where you can
Mhm.
meet the people.
Yeah.
And you have done that so well, Arjun, and with intention, obviously. And you openly shared the story about how you slightly stalked, or we'll just say researched Ryan Serhant before you guys became pals, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to talk more about that because our audience hears it from us all the time. But how have you been able to put yourself in the right rooms? Like, what has that looked like for you? And right now, it's really easy for you to be in the right rooms because you've done this for a long time. But
Right.
what did that look like in the beginning?
Well, I'll just tell you this. You take your fucking shot. You got one. No, you really do.
Yes.
Like, you can sit back and think, oh, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't want to face this kind of rejection. I'm not, like, look,
Mm.
none of it matters. Like, you got one shot to do it sometimes, or a moment.
Yeah.
And if you miss it, you take the next one that you can. But in broader context, like, you got like one life to live, and not to get like philosophical, things go pretty quick and they can end pretty abruptly. And you don't want to be living with regret about, like, and maybe, I don't know if anyone in the audience has read that book, like the top 5 regrets of the dying. And I think one of them,
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I got a peek into it when I was in nursing school and working as a CNA, and
yeah.
that sticks with me. But share for the audience
No,
like
so like
the
I'm
top
I'm
regret.
only a little bit of the way through it, but for people that have read,
Okay.
like, a big part of it, I think, was like, one, I know there was one big regret of not allowing myself to be happy. The other one was like not like choosing or like pursuing like my passion. I think that kind of ties into this and into the groundwork that
Yeah.
Candace is talking about of, you take your shot, right? Because if you don't,
Mhm.
the regret and living with regret is so heavy, and that can have a compounding effect too, because regret just kind of piles on top of regret, and it just keeps
Mhm.
Yeah.
adding up, and that'll drag people down. And and that's where we land in all these states of depression and everything else. So I think in the beginning, elbowing your way, and I look back again, I'll tie it back to '08. Like, that was a rough time, but I'd also remembered, because of like my days and being part of a fraternity, that was an incredible network, and I had so many opportunities. I still get
I didn't
opportunities.
know you were a part of a
I was
fraternity.
I was president of my
Okay.
fraternity. Yeah.
Oh, of
Oh
course you
shoot, I can
were.
see
There
that
we go.
now. That
That I
makes
can see.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how I got started in the mortgage business. It was because of my fraternity. I lived in Reno. I was president of Sigma Nu,
Interesting.
living in the fraternity house in 2001, the year before I was set to graduate. And a few of my
Mhm.
fraternity brothers had dropped out of school and moved back home to Vegas because they were basically partying too much and their parents pulled them out. Imagine partying too much in Reno to go home to Vegas.
And they had to go to
As if that's
Vegas.
gonna as if that's gonna somehow temper your
That's an
partying.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
but it's just where they were from. And they
Mhm.
got into the mortgage industry, and I thought these guys were dealing drugs. They were making so much money. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And how do I do it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you guys are either gigolos or you're drug dealers. Because I don't know how you're minting this kind of
One or
cash.
the other.
One or the other.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started into the industry. But the fraternity days like opened up a lot of connections for me. And I've always
Mhm.
remembered that, and then tried to create that and pay it forward for other people, which is like, yeah, every time there's been tough times, I know categorically, it never wanes. The right turn that I make, right or left, there's no preference there or foreshadowing, but the right turn that I make towards success and prosperity and getting out of that was because of the rooms that I was in. It wasn't because the markets changed. It was because I changed. It wasn't because things got better on the
Mm.
outside. It was because I got better. I refined something, or I got sharper about something, or I changed my attitude or my perspective or my outlook. So I started
Mm.
hanging around like different people. And that whole sum of, that whole phrase, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? Or you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. It's so powerful. And for everyone out there, whatever stage you're at in your life, whether you're in college, listening to this, post-college, graduate school, even, going through kind of a purging of your friends and taking stock of all the people you keep in your life, it's really, really important. Like, who you're around has so much more of a profound impact on you than you'll ever give it credit for. Like, you can't
Mhm.
even quantify
Yeah.
it. So I know, like, taking shots to get around the right people, and similar to that thing with Ryan, and I just went backstage to try and meet him because I was like, I got to meet this guy, like, somehow, some way, to get in touch with him, because he said on his videos, you can email me at ryan@ryanserhant.com and I'll reply. And he never replied. So I was like, that was bullshit. I ended up in his spam or
Called
whatever.
out.
Yeah, just I ended up in his spam or whatever, which is fine.
Mhm.
Ryan gets thousands upon thousands of emails a week or a day even.
Mhm.
So I just took my shot. But that shot changed the entire trajectory of my career. And I'll even say, like, pinpointed into my life. Like, I'm fortunate and lucky to call you both friends because of that moment. I've been able to
Mhm.
put on some incredible events here in San Francisco because of that moment. My friendship with
Mhm.
Candace has brought her back here for basically like 2 or 3 events now, to where like
Yeah.
she's like, she's a fixture in this market. Like everyone wants to hear from her. And you too, Kat, like, and you coming. So it all happens because of that. And
Mhm.
Yep.
so I would just urge people, whatever you're thinking of, and now in this world of social media, the opportunity to not just take the shot, but actually increase your chances of that shot happening or going through are like
Mhm.
100x, right? Like
Yeah.
you'd be so surprised, but we kind of all like dismiss it or not put enough importance on it. The amount of people
Yeah.
that actually reply to their own DMs that you would think there's no way this guy's going to answer this or this gal's going to read this
Right.
will really shock you. Like they're actually
Mhm.
on their
Totally.
phones. They answer their own stuff. They're their own publicists. I mean, they have people that do other stuff, but if you
Yeah.
write to people, you got a good shot of getting your message seen or read or heard. So I would just tell everyone, just take the shot. Whoever you're trying to meet, whatever you're trying to create, what dream you have, what vision, the funk you're in that you're hoping you might come out of if you meet this person. Shit, maybe if you're actually interested in dating that person, don't think they're too far out of your league. Just send them a DM, like take the shot. Because
Shoot your shot.
if you don't,
Tell him, Arjun.
your life
I love it.
your life stays where it's at, and nobody gets anywhere
Yep.
without some serious risk taking, right? To he who risks it, the
Totally.
rewards come.
Have you
Mhm.
guys ever seen the movie The Secret?
I never
No.
saw
Are you
it.
talking about the book or
Okay.
the movie?
Okay. Well, there's a book and a
The book,
movie.
yes.
So
Oh,
both of highly
okay.
recommend
The
both.
book, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the movie, there's a man in there named Bob Proctor, and he's talking about, thoughts become things and all of
Mm.
all of that. And so I've been starting to listen to like some of his YouTube videos. They're like from the 80s. They're so old.
Oh my
But I'm listening
goodness.
to them, and he's talking about what Arjun's just talking about is like you can't be a victim of your circumstances. We can all look around and say, "Oh, all of these things are happening in the world, in the market, in whatever." And so now that dictates my life. You can't be that person.
No,
You have to be the person that looks within and says, what do I have to offer in this moment? How can I be better? How can I make the right connections? And not look at your circumstances, which sounds like you are being fake, maybe. But the reality of it is, like, when you're looking at anyone who's winning in this market, they're not complaining about
no.
circumstances. They
Mhm.
are
They're getting
continuing to
creative.
serve, continue to show up. They're being creative. They're
Mhm.
thinking about themselves. They're focusing on how they feel, their energy, and it sounds like it's fake. It sounds like it's not real. It sounds like it's bullshit. But the reality of it is, when I look at the most successful people who I admire, they're never victims of their
No,
circumstance.
there's like it's like that
Mhm.
Tony Robbins phrase, right? Your biography doesn't have to be your destiny. It's not supposed to be. Like some people think like
Mm,
wherever I
I
came
like
from or
that.
whatever shit I'm in, like that's my destiny. This is just how it has to be. It doesn't.
totally.
Like you
Yeah.
get to
Mhm.
decide or you get to break that. It's so funny you mentioned this, Candice, because again, it was a space where we all were, and I recorded something about this or talked about it, about this very thing that you're talking about in terms of figuring out the commonality or the traits among certain people that
Mhm.
operate on a certain level. I was watching Kat speak during the breakout sessions when we were in Miami. She was speaking to
Mhm.
a full room, killing it. And I remember like I walked up like with my phone and was like catching a video to put on my stories of Kat speaking. And then I kind of walked to the back because I'd heard something and I thought it was a thought that popped in my mind. And I think you guys are like this too. Like when there's a thought that's in my mind, like I jump on my stories right away because I'll forget. Like I need to record it
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're like, "Oh, I felt this for a moment."
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
and Candace was there and we've been talking in and out and we were like, everyone was kind of in the same space. But I went outside and I remember thinking like, I've talked to enough people here and I can clearly tell you the 3 things that I'm hearing the most out of everyone that's here in this room, right? Like of all these people that are like not choosing to sit back and cower in this crazy market. And there was a good like 300-400 people there, right? And it was a very high energy,
Yeah.
like great event. And I noticed one, these people are always getting into rooms. They never really like sit back. They're always trying to get into the room. That's number one,
Mhm.
right? They attend the events. They want to be around more like-minded people. They want that community. They're starving for it. And then the other thing is they're always refining their craft. a big part of why they were there was to get better. They wanted to listen to people, right? They wanted to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always refining their craft. And then the last thing, to Candace's point, they never, ever bitch about the market, ever. The market is the market. They don't bitch about it. They don't say, well, it's this, and that's why I'm not where I want to be. No, this is. So I've just got to make it happen, right? If it is to be, it's up to me. Like, we're just going through it, and I'm going to forge ahead. So I think that's beautiful. You know, you brought it up, Candace. Like, that is it. They don't bitch about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a challenge for our audience, for our clever crew. If you're listening and you want to know how to begin to really not be a victim of your circumstance and also begin to take control of a situation, I learned this from Brendan Bouchard. I was at his mastermind a few weeks ago, and he said every Friday, make a bold ask.
I like that.
Every Friday, make a bold ask. So send that email, send that DM, send a voice memo, because Arjun loves his voice memos. He's famous for it. So send the voice memo and make the bold ask, because it's always going to be a no unless
if you never
ask.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How many times did we message Chris Do to get on our podcast, Kat? Like,
oh
6?
my God. Why
More?
are you bringing this up right now?
No, it's a
Several.
story.
Because I want people to know.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I followed
it
up.
wasn't
we followed
one
up
time.
We followed up from July until November. So what? July, August, September, October, November, 5 months. Most people give up after what, like half a try in 1 week?
And we did multiple other things besides DMing, right? There's emails, there's photos, there's tags, right? Like there's
Instagram
so
Live.
many things. She went live with him, right? Like all of the things. And I want to be transparent about what this looks like, because I know someone's like, I sent Ryan an email and he didn't respond. That didn't stop Arjun.
No.
That didn't stop Arjun, right?
Yeah.
Like he's still figuring it out.
So many people are thinking about like the fear of rejection in the moment, or the cost to their ego to be told no, or to be rejected, or to be kept out. Like, so what? The cost of not doing anything 50, 60, 80, 90 years from now, when you're on your deathbed, that cost is far, not to get morbid here, but like we are going deep, like that cost far outweighs the temporary pain, the temporary sting of a no, which I don't even take personally anymore. I'm just like, okay, so it's a not yet. So let me come back to you. Let me do a different ask in a different way, or reach out to somebody else. And I always think about, and I think this is probably from like a reel or a podcast episode from Alex Hormozy. He said, people are asking him like, what's the lens through which you make decisions? And he's like, well, I think about it. If 80-year-old Alex wouldn't give a fuck about it, I'm not going to give a fuck about it in the moment. He's like, maybe I'll give myself 30 seconds to like, rah, 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 like beat my chest and like throw a temper tantrum. But then I just dust it off and move on, because 80-year-old Alex is like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this shit doesn't matter. Look at all of the things we are going to accomplish. And don't just get zeroed in on that one moment, that one fear, and then not do anything about it. And then your life is just Groundhog Day. Like, I don't want Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it's resilience, right? Like, you just stay resilient and just keep pursuing. And you can't beat someone that doesn't give up, right? Somebody who keeps getting up
There
can
you
never
go.
be defeated.
You
So-
cannot.
Arjun, you have dropped so many gems. Oh my gosh. There's going to be so many sound bites for our producer Lily to pull from. I love this.
Why I wore the bomber jacket today for you, Kat. Like
I
you got me in the right
appreciate that.
headspace. The right headspace.
I love it.
I was going to ask if you're wearing the bomber jacket for me. I appreciate that.
No, this one is my one that says the reigning champ. It's
Ooh, I love that.
It's like from a label that does a bunch of stuff that's inspired by Muhammad Ali. So
I love that.
Yep, this is my favorite
Kat,
jacket.
you need that one.
I was going to say, Candace, my birthday gift next year, can we just like expedite, or Christmas?
Yeah. You got it.
Okay. Business expense. It's for our wardrobe.
There you go.
So Arjun, we definitely want to have the Clever Crew in on what's going on at LFG Society. So can you give them the lowdown? What's happening over there? Who can get involved? What's it about?
So again, how it all kind of started was the market this last year being so tough and challenging, and then it having some parallels to like '08 a little bit, and then even just talking to people. You can't really compare it to '08 to everyone who wasn't around in '08. Like, this market is this is their crisis right now, or this is their tough time. So for them, it's like it weighs heavy, right? And then other people who have different frames of reference, like those of us that have been through a few cycles, we constantly contrast and compare. But to someone who's never been through anything, like, I don't give two shits about that. Like, you're talking about '08, like I wasn't even born or whatever, right? Which is pretty close.
Does that mean we're old now?
Yeah.
Damn, I guess.
Shots fired.
That old, not quite, but it's only like 15, 16 years later. But You get the point. Like they, like to them, it's not, this is their big crisis right now. This is what's weighing
Mm-hmm.
heavy. So I know, again, dating it back, like the proximity and having access to people is what's always helped me. People did it for me during tough times. Like I got invited to a certain meeting, or hey, there's this luncheon with all these investment bankers that I had no business being in the room with. It somebody dragged me to it. They're like, just come, you can meet some people. I shook some hands and
Mm-hmm.
things, you just never know where it can go, right? It's like that same with that beautiful story, which, since we're in San Francisco, it's worthy of mention of, The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith.
Mm.
Like he went to that
Yes.
football game, he shook some hands with some people, even though that wasn't what he intended to go for. The one thing that he did try and go for, he actually, if you remember the movie, he got rejected, which was the big investment banker that gave him the ride. He was trying to get his business. The guy said, look, Chris, I'm not moving my accounts to you. Just enjoy the game. Now he could have sulked it and be like, this is all for nothing. But what he did is he just pivoted and he started shaking hands with other wealth advisors who liked him because he was magnetic. And then, he landed some accounts. This propelled his status. Then he got the job and the rest was history. So that kind of like somebody did it for you, right? Or some opportunity was created for you. So then I thought, look, what if we had an online community that got together like in person? And there's so many masterminds going around the country. So I wanted it to be different. I'm like, what's different from a mastermind? If you had this online community where everyone would kind of lift and contribute, right? So it's not about the dollars or a big ticket spend, but it's just a community of proximity, like having access to it, right? Like people would have access to you both. Like you both, like people were telling me because they were so excited about the two of you coming to this. They're like, do you think I could take a picture of them? I'm like, do you think you could give them a hug? Like you could talk to them. They're human beings, but this
Slide
real
into our
people.
DMs.
yeah, they're real people, like, and they're two of the greatest and nicest people you ever meet. They'll take 5 pictures with you and they'll exchange DMs with you and talk to you and they'll help you in any way they can because they're huge givers and they have big hearts. But that's the perception that sometimes people have. They're like, I could never talk to them. I could never be around them. So like, let's break down these walls and show people what's possible, right? We have a great group of people that are just wanting to give, help lift others. Everybody ends up winning. The business comes as a byproduct of that kind of goodwill and that kind of intention instead of people being in there on the take and on the sell. So I thought, well, let's do this first one in person, and have as many great minds and people out there and thought leaders and marketers and givers and just, again, great human beings. You guys, Kyle, Tyler, all the other people, Shivani, like all the other people that spoke, Ryan, of course.
We do love Shiv.
Yeah, she loves you both too. And like everyone, the 150 people that came away from that event said, like, they're like, look, it was so different from, it wasn't a conference. It wasn't a meeting. It was more of an experience, right? And it wasn't like an experience like with lights and colors, like a concert or anything. It was like, it was just good vibes and good intentions the whole way around.
It was also, I feel like you're being super humble right now. It was a freaking incredible event. It was a beautiful space. It was amazing. It's such a great group of people. The energy was high and right and just so good and so welcoming. And the production, it looked amazing. You did such a good job.
Well, thank you. We had some AV challenges because we were the first event in that room.
That's right. Yeah. But I don't even remember. That's not what I remember from the event. I remember it looking amazing, it being beautiful. Like it was such a light space. I love the floor to ceiling windows.
Yeah,
like
no,
it was
beautiful.
a vibe in that space.
It's a spectacular space, and it was the right kind of place for that type of energy. And plus, there was there was a story behind it, right? Like all of us getting people together to bet on a big comeback for real estate or for industry or for marketing in general, and not being down at the mouth. And that building is at the epicenter of a part of San Francisco.
Of the Renaissance.
Yeah, that was like really gone through it. Like that building was vacant for 4 years through the whole pandemic. That was the men's Macy's.
Oh, I just got chills. I remember.
I used to buy suits and or socks and underwear in that building when it was the men's Macy's. And then now, 15 years later, there's an event in there that we're hosting. So we wanted to have again, the right mix of people. Everyone came away from it feeling really uplifted. And then the society itself launched, the online community. And again, it's providing proximity and inspiration and collaboration and ideas and thought leadership and access that people wouldn't otherwise have. Like I've connected with a number of athletes from around the world, ex-Olympians, people that others would have to pay a lot of money to get them to come speak or whatever. And I just said, look, just give your time, right? Like we'll find other ways to support you, but there's people that will really benefit from your story. Like you could help change the trajectory of someone's life. It's not about the money here, right? And others. And I know you both are going to be speaking and contributing to it, and there'll be a lot of collaboration. They're like, absolutely, that's just what we wanted to create. So it's now kind of my passion project because as I mentioned on stage that day, on my birthday, I did this halftime check, right? I'm 45. So if I make it to 90, Like I'll
When you make it to
when I
90.
make it. Well, we should. It's funny because I was talking to my
We'll
cousin
have a
about this.
party. Actually, put it on the
Let's
calendar.
do it. 45
There
years
we go.
from now. 45
Yeah.
years from now, we'll do a
We'll
party.
be there.
By that time, with AI and all the drugs and everything we can take, we're gonna be thriving. 90, we'll be thriving. Like we could probably do that one in Vegas, like easily.
90's the
Yeah,
new
90 in
30.
Vegas.
It's-
I'll let Dom know. He's
Yeah.
all in. I already know.
Doing my 90th in Vegas. Are you gonna be there this weekend? Like that?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure that they're gonna make a movie
I
about this
almost
at some
spit
point.
out my drink right now
I
because
saw
that
Who
that.
said
sounds
that,
so
right?
hilarious.
My 40th in Vegas. People are gonna say I'm gonna do my 90th in Vegas. Like what? But
There you go.
So I-
Let's start saying that. That's fun.
for sure. But I
Okay.
just thought about that. Like I like to be very introspective and take time and like look back on things and reflect. And I
Yeah.
always do it on my birthday. I was alone this particular year because I was in Austin speaking at an event and I didn't get to bring the family with me. And I just thought, okay, well, what do I want the next 45 to look like? Right? Like what should it mean? And it's all basically about impact and lifting and empowering and not focused on what kind of success I want to have or how much money I want to make. Because really the main, like the biggest job I've left the rest of my life is to make sure I set some sort of standard for my daughters on leaving this place like much better than when I came to it. And even if, and I know that sometimes sounds big and like, look, we're all small microcosms in a huge, huge space. But if everyone took on that attitude or that mindset of trying to leave an impact or a footprint, you know, even if it's to just a small, small community, but if everyone does that, it lifts so much around it. So that was it. And then, you know, the society was kind of born. And then I just thought, let's see where this goes. Like, it'll be fun. It'll continue to evolve. There's going to be more people that'll come into it. And it's already lifting people. We've had just a couple of calls, but people have told me like, this is way better than any coaching that I pay for. One person told me after I had my business and mindset coach speak as a bonus call last month. He spoke and somebody told me I've been paying a therapist for 10 years to tell me the stuff that he just said for free. And I just finally got it. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Like, I'm glad we're kind of moving in the right direction here and leading impact. So that's basically
Arjun, can anyone join at any moment? Can
anybody
people roll in? Okay, so we'll drop the link then.
I will give you the link. It is super accessible. It's $79 a month. It's like the access to people and everything. And that's because it's not about making money. It's just to help sustain it and keep things moving because there is some production costs and things behind the scene, but that's it.
And a little bit of skin in the game, right?
Yes,
like a little bit.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
There has to be some commitment, but we will do some in-person events, you know, that'll be a little bit larger.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll do them. And like, you know, they're going to be more retreat style where they're all really focused
we're definitely
on
there now.
personal growth and evolvement, because there's enough masterminds and conferences and things that are going around the country that are so tactical and about the business.
Yes.
But I think the work on ourselves and the evolving and the connection and thinking of others, right? Instead of like being so fixated and focused on what we're doing and what we're accomplishing rather than checking in on others and taking the attention off of us and removing ego from it. That's where it's needed. So that's what this is all going to be about.
Amen.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. Well, we are so happy to be in community with you. You're doing great things, and we can't wait to see where LFG Society goes because we know
just getting started
beyond imagination.
No, I appreciate you both and love you both very much. You're both huge contributors to the marketing space. You inspire so many people. You're big, huge pioneers for even female empowerment and even male empowerment. That's why I'm here, right?
Human empowerment. Yes, exactly.
Yes, I love it.
Our clever crew is made up of clever boys and clever girls. We don't discriminate.
Yes.
Kat, do you want to do rapid fire?
Yeah, let's get into rapid fire. Okay, Arjun, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Question number 1. What was one of your childhood nicknames?
Juice. It was my nickname. It was my nickname I got in high school because I had an algebra 3-4 teacher that could not pronounce my name right. She called me Arjuan, Arjun, or like all kinds. She thought the J was silent. And then one day she said Arjuice, and the whole class started saying juice, and it stuck. So my nickname has been Juice.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Children of difficult to pronounce names unite across the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to lazy dinner when you've just had a day.
Burger and fries.
Yeah.
Solid. There's that fast food coming out.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of, next question. Takis or hot Cheetos?
Ooh, Packies.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's the right answer.
Correct answer. We will keep you on the podcast. What is this? You'll appreciate this as a new father. What is the best non-curse word, one word insult?
That's really hard because we curse way too much in our house. So
we do?
evolved. Yeah. We're sticking with the curse words. So I don't know if I've got a really good one. That's a really good one. You've stumped me there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Non-curse word.
Insult.
Insult.
Mhm.
God, I don't know because
So
we're using
some
all bad words.
examples.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You and me both. Candace and I always with the F bombs. So some examples. Somebody had said generic
Mhm.
is an insult. Candace's grandmother would call people a crumb. Like you're not even a
You
whole
crumb.
meal. You're just a crumb. That's good, right?
That's,
That's old
I
school
mean,
insult.
that's belittling. Like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
feel it when you just
Mm,
that's being said.
right?
I don't,
Okay.
honestly, I don't have one because we just use
Okay.
way
No
too
worries.
many curse words. So you stumped me
Well, we'll just have to do a follow-up episode.
there. Okay.
What makes you nervous?
Nervous. I would say it's the idea or thought of not being able to like provide for my daughters, like that, just even that
Mm,
thought, if it comes into my head, and not provide like
mm,
financially, but just in like in terms of emotional intelligence and being able to pour into them, that
mm,
makes me a little bit nervous. So I try and stay ahead of that as
mm.
much as possible.
I feel that. Who is your celebrity crush?
Oof. So there were a couple over the years. It's evolved.
Mm, okay.
It's evolved. Yeah,
uh
you can pick
so it was
anyone
like
from any
Yeah.
era. We're
girl, like
fine.
Any era. Yeah.
girl next door type of feel. It was Jennifer Connelly,
Mm,
and
Oh,
let's see, and Charlize Theron was kind of like the one on
all
the one on the
right.
yeah.
pedestal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a goddess incarnate. I'm gonna have to second that vote there. Okay. Everybody knows Candace has an obsession with being at the airport, or maybe she's just always at the airport.
Yes.
But here's the question. What's your airport arrival time? 2 hours before takeoff or 2 minutes before takeoff?
Probably closer to 2 minutes. Yeah.
See?
Why do we keep getting
Yeah.
guests that agree with you, Candace? Okay.
Totally.
All right. All right.
Minutes.
We're
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
All right. And then, of course, this is why we had to have Chris Do on the podcast. I have a huge obsession with Marvel and comic books. I'm actually a nerd. So, if you were a superhero, Arjun, what would your superpower be?
My superpower would be to just end suffering. That's it. Just end
Mm,
suffering amongst people, like people that are just like feeling down, they're in pain, they're going through such like difficult traumatic time. Like I don't like seeing
mm,
that. That like stops me dead in my tracks. Even like strangers, to my own detriment. I'll stop and like go out of my way to try and like correct it or be there or whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. And then people are yelling at me, like, get like back over here. We're doing something. We've got something to work on. But I just can't help it. So if I had a superpower, it would be that.
oh, I love that. Great answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Arjun. We had an amazing time and we can't wait
This
to
was
see
a
what we
lot
do
of fun.
next.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I look
Yes.
forward to doing stuff with you, and thank you for everything you guys do. Love you both very much.
Likewise. Love you too, Arjun. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on Not Nice, Clever.
Remember to follow Not Nice Clever wherever you listen to audio.
And if you haven't already, drop that 5-star review.
Share your takeaways. Tell us your story. We love to hear it.
Signing off, your not so nice, but oh so clever besties that mean business.
See you soon.